If you want to stay up to date with all current hip-hop events and releases, make sure to subscribe and become part of this community. Oh, and also, go cop that fresh merch and listen to my new songs in the description. So the first week numbers for Lil Baby's new album, It's Only Me, just came in. And they are very interesting because they disproved something that y'all also said in a couple of polls that I posted on my channel. So let's jump straight into this and let's get this started. It was really hot because I got to take off this hoodie right here, but remember, this is an amazing hoodie, and if you click the link in the description right there, you can get this Ben's Music hoodie as well for a very good price, and it is comfortable as hell, so make sure to go check that out. Alright, so the first week numbers for It's Only Me are in, and they are interesting because I posted a poll right before the album actually dropped, and we kind of had very different answers on this one. So let's take a look at this real quick. So 323 people voted, so quite, actually a good amount of people. 10% said less than 50,000, which I don't know what y'all on, but y'all tripping. We had 24% say 50 to 100,000, which was still more than I thought would go for that low of a number. We had almost half of y'all say 100 to 150, which I thought was still very interesting because we're gonna go into his numbers usually in a second, but that was kind of also below what I thought, and then only 19 said above 150. Now the reason that I chose 150 is kind of like the upper boundary of this is because when you look at his last album, My Term, that one sold 197,000 for his week, so only a little below 200,000. And so a lot of people thought, okay, well, this time around we didn't have the same support for this album. We didn't have singles like Whoa, we didn't have singles like Some to Prove, and we didn't have Baby as like this upcoming artist that is like about to drop this big album. Now Baby was already established and we were all expecting this to be way bigger of an album, but then he dropped those subpar singles. We got the Detox single, we got the Hey single, both of which were just whack. And I mean, they were not completely bad. I can still listen to Hey a little more than Detox, but they weren't great. They really weren't great. So that was the reason why a lot of people thought, okay, if this album is going to go down that route, it's not going to be as good as his last one. But as it turns out, this dude, Lil Baby, actually sold 216,000, equivalent album units in the first week, which is actually really impressive because when you kind of consider all the things that I just talked about, with the album not having those big singles supporting it, with the album not being like this big new album from a young, an up-and-coming artist, but an already established artist who we kind of thought would disappoint judging by the singles that he had already put out, 216 is really good. And I don't know which way this could go, but we'll discuss it in a second. Let's break this number down a little bit further because obviously nowadays you don't have, album sales as much. Out of those 216,000 equivalent album units, only 6,500 were actual album sales. So actually people buying the entire album for a specific price, which nowadays, of course, that number goes further down and down because it's just, people are streaming music and that's the way we kind of consume it as well. Of course, other types of streams are also counting into this, so streams on TikTok or Instagram also get counted in some sort of way, but we've had this discussion with the first week numbers for a bit now. I still think this is very impressive for Baby to have 216,000 units sold in the first week. Now, rightfully so, a lot of y'all also talked about how the first week numbers are actually not that important in this discussion because what's actually going to be interesting is the second, the third, the fourth, the fifth week numbers. So kind of seeing how the album retains its value over time. And those are going to be interesting to kind of have an eye out on, and I'll make a video in like 2 or 3 weeks when we get further numbers on that one because you have people like Bad Bunny right now still outselling everybody in their like whatever how manyth week, and we have Lil Baby who could kind of really drop in that second week and that third week. I could actually see him drop quite a bit, so I'm a bit concerned about that, but right now I'm actually just happy that he sold this much. Of course, album sales don't equal a great album. I still think It's Only Me was very lackluster in a lot of ways. It could still have been a lot better, even though my opinion on it just kind of improves and improves every single day that I listen to the album. I discover new songs here and there that I didn't really pay attention to before, which is really beautiful when an album does that, and I kind of can go back to it and rediscover a lot of maybe details that I missed the first couple of times around. But still, it could have been so much more. I like to use that Friday track, Forever, as an example. That track could have been so amazing, but it just wasn't. It kind of turned out not to be, and that's so sad. It's really sad to see how that, like, how that really didn't work out. And so that's why also this number has me a bit worried, because Lil Baby obviously is kind of riding high of having this chart at #1 and being like, okay, it's another #1 album. I think his third one in a row, with the first one being My Turn, then Voice of the Heroes, and now this one. So he could be like, okay, 216, I could just drop anything and it will sell. Maybe it just was the hype. Maybe it was really just the hype, and the next album around, people will kind of, even if the album is better than this one, people won't buy it as much first week. We just gotta have to wait and see. I just hope he doesn't fall into that trap, because that could be very detrimental to his success if he now kind of gets overheated by this number, and it's like, okay, I outsold my last album, so the next time around I'm gonna outsell it even further, like than the last one. So these 216 now, and then it just doesn't do that, and he'll kind of get frustrated with that. That's kind of what I just hope we don't get to see in like 1, 2, 3 years time, whenever he decides to drop the next album. But maybe he also prove us wrong, and he just continue, stepping up his game every single release that we got. That would of course make me very happy. That would be my preferred way, to handle all this. But we're just gonna have to wait and see how that turns out. But I'm actually pretty optimistic. I think Baby can still, kind of come through with a great album and disprove anybody that thought that this album wasn't that great. I think what's really interesting is to see how all of y'all kind of change your opinions on this one. You've seen my development on this. First of, when it first dropped and I reacted to it live on Twitch, I was like, okay, what is this? Like, this is not the album that we were expecting. A couple of days later, I dropped another video going over why I actually changed my opinion and actually quite like it now. So I would love to hear the stories from y'all individually, how y'all have kind of evolved with this album too in the past week, and how y'all have kind of grown with it and became more like, maybe more, a little bit more susceptible to what the album has to offer, if that's the right word. But yeah, any theories and any like opinions you have on this and your individual journey with the album, do let me know in the comments down below. If you watched this video to the end and liked it, and you want to stay up to date with all current hip-hop events and releases, make sure to subscribe, turn on notifications, hit that like button, and go follow my social media, and most importantly, join my Discord in the description. Until the next one, you'll have an incredible day, and y'all take care.